Welcome to the AfterBuzz with your host, Brandon Coates.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, good morning to you, sir.
Good. Are my teeth? Is there anything in my teeth? Am I good?
Well, it's not green, because if it was green, then you wouldn't have teeth here.
Yeah.
So.
They're not like red or anything?
No, I think you're all right.
Okay, good. Because I just had like I made myself a juice drink. It had some beets in it, and that stuff will make it look red.
Delicious.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the AfterBuzz. Today's topic will be hurricanes.
Okay, like the drinks?
Kind of. No. I mean, if you have hurricane stories, then by all means have at it. I have none. But no, I think, with Hurricane Harvey and all the damage and everything that's going on there, and having lived in Florida for 8 years, Scott here having grown up in kind of hurricane central over in Louisiana.
Yeah, we've got our own little legends.
He's got his fair share of stories there. So, yeah. So anyway, I figured we'd just kind of get into it. So I lived in Florida from 2005 to 2013, and the year before I moved there was the year that they had a storm hit like every weekend for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
Damn. It
was like boom, 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 boom. And I don't think they were all hurricanes, but they were at least tropical storms. And the one thing a lot of people don't realize is a tropical storm can be more dangerous than a hurricane because it brings water. Obviously, Harvey being different than that, because that thing is just dumping water. Like, it is splooshin' all over that area.
Pretty much. Sploosh.
So I started in July of 2005, and I saw that we just now recently, last week I think it was, we had the anniversary of Katrina hitting Florida, because Kevin remembered it, because he posts about it every damn year. And that's kind of how I keep my dates in my brain. Like, that's why I follow Facebook, because I know people like Kevin are going to be able to post it up there and remind me of things. And then shortly after that, obviously, is when we went up to New Orleans. You were in Louisiana for that, Scott? In Lake Charles?
For hurricane?
For Katrina. Like, were you around that at all? Was it near you?
I was in Lafayette when that happened. Hold on here. I want to get this up here too real quick so that we can remind people to text Harvey to 90999 to donate $10 to the Red Cross.
Yes.
Yeah, so in Louisiana, you got Lake Charles on one end of the state, New Orleans on the other end of the state, and Lafayette's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some of both storms, but I was mostly in the middle. So, Katrina went this way, Rita went this way. I got a little bit of both. I was actually on Fox News at like 3 in the morning. I was running fever, but they wanted to talk to somebody on the ground, and we were a Fox affiliate in Lafayette at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they called me it was about 3 in the morning, and they were like, "So how are things?" And I'm standing out on my balcony, and I'm getting tropical storm force winds. I'm watching a tree fall over and watching the water get pushed. The water isn't accumulating yet because the winds are so strong it just keeps pushing the water away.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm feverish, and I'm delirious, and they had just finished talking about people trying to evacuate out of Houston because they weren't sure if Rita was going to head that way. And I got on this whole rant about if you can evacuate, you should, because it's a bad storm.
Oh, please tell me you have like the audio.
I wish.
Video.
Oh,
man!
A couple of people actually saw me because hurricane parties where people were up all night. But yeah, I've got no record of it, which was probably pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Katrina hit us in Florida first, and I'm going to try and flip this around so that you can see it. So if you've got Florida here, and then you got the Gulf here, and Louisiana would be up here. I'm hoping that I'm doing this right. Was that correct for the camera? Like, I'm flipping it 180?
Oh, yeah, you're
here.
Doing it.
Okay, so then, so Katrina came this way. It went through us. I think it was a Category 1 when it hit us.
Yeah.
Still did some damage. And then it hit the Gulf and just became that monster storm.
Right.
And Katrina hit at night where I was at. And I remember leaving work around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we were just starting to feel the effects of Katrina, the winds and the rain. And as I'm driving home, I remember I drove past the KFC, and right as I drive by, I hear, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I quickly look over to my left. The KFC sign blew off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it flew right over the top of my car and ended up like crashing into a gas station. And at that point, I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is no joke.
This is a thing now.
I'm like, I might need a cigarette after that. So I stopped at the store and bought a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
And so then I ended up going home. Within 5 minutes of being home, power went out. And I didn't have cable or anything at the time. I just had the rabbit ears. And this was before you needed like the HD rabbit ear stuff.
Yeah.
So I got home. I flip on the TV for a little bit. I'm watching some local news, and then power goes out. You know, it's like 5 o'clock, 5:30 or something like that. So I grabbed a lamp, a book, and a bottle of vodka, and I got drunk reading a book.
Whee!
That's how I spent Hurricane Katrina there.
Fun.
And the power was out for maybe 12 hours. It wasn't anything horrendous. I got up the next day, went to work. You know, there's downed trees and stuff like that. I mean, it obviously still did some damage, but building up to Wilma, this was nothing compared to what Wilma did. What shocked me was the amount of people who don't prepare like at all for hurricanes.
Oh,
at least in the vicinity that I was at. And it didn't seem very difficult. Like, you get some basic things: water, canned food.
Yeah.
And just put it away. You don't need to eat it. You don't need to touch it. You don't need to drink it. Just put it away. That's it.
Very simple.
Oh, yeah. And then just leave it there. One trick, by the way, that I did learn when I was down there, actually a few different tricks. One, which is kind of funny about that hawk that ended up in the dude's taxi. Because one thing I heard from somebody, before one of the hurricanes hit was pay attention to the wildlife. If there's no birds, guess what? Storm's coming.
Yep.
And it gets really creepy, like almost like 48 hours.
Super quiet.
Yeah, almost like 48 hours before the storm hits. If you're noticing that the wildlife is gone and you're not hearing anything, guess what? Storms are coming, folks. And another trick that I learned was just fill your tub up with water.
Yeah.
Just leave it. It doesn't have to be drinking water or anything, but you can use, like, you could boil the water if you need to make something. But I mean, hopefully your tub's clean enough that you can, leave the water in there.
Yeah, you might want to clean the tub first.
Even if you want to go get the big bags of ice, you could dump that in there as well. So there's all these different things. You can technically drink the water that's in the back of your toilet, again, if your toilet is clean. But that's coming straight in. It's not touching the bowl or anything, or where you're actually going to the bathroom at. Yeah. So you could technically do that as well. Lots of different options. Another one that I'd heard was you buy the gallon jugs of water. Mm-hmm. And then you put them in the freezer. Yeah. Once they're frozen, you put them in the fridge. So when the power goes out, you got these big blocks of ice in there that keep your food cold for you. Yep. Because, granted, 12 hours, nothing was really going to spoil for me when it came to Katrina. Then Rita hit us. Still not as bad. I mean, did damage and stuff. But at this point, I was going to stay at work because being a radio station, Scott knows this very well, somebody's got to be there because we're public service. We need to tell people what to do.
You're on the air 24 hours straight.
Yep. And it wasn't so bad being there because the building is technically built for a Category 5 down there.
Ah, okay.
And which is kind of awesome. Oh, and we had great GMs down there. They would build, they would kind of take the tables and they would line the entire cafeteria and just, it was filled with food. That's how I got hooked on Vienna sausages for like 2 years.
Wow.
Because I found a package of Vienna sausages, like, oh, let me give these a try. And I'm like, eating them, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, like, these things are addictive as hell. And I would eat tons of them. But we always had power because we had a generator. My office, which was technically a studio, always had power. Like other offices in the cubicle areas, power wouldn't come back on there. But the studios always had to have power because we always needed to be on the air. And so I had a TV with a DVD player in there. I would go hunker down, watch movies, walk down to the on-air studio. It was me and this other guy, Dave, who would go hang out there. Rita, still not as bad. Not really any memorable stories that I could think of from Rita. Then Wilma hit. Oh, Wilma.
Yeah, Wilma
you big bitch. So Wilma hit, and Wilma was absolutely gigantic. The sheer mass of land that this thing covered was huge. And I was at the station, and you can see kind of like the wind's picking up. You can see all the palm trees kind of blowing around you. But what's eerie is when you're in the studio, you can see all this action happening outside. You hear almost nothing. I mean, those windows are like this thick.
Yeah, exactly.
They're fucking huge. But then if you walk outside, you go into the cafeteria, you get those little bitty panes across the window, and it's like things are shaking and moving and all kinds of stuff. And so at one point, myself and Dave, we wanted to go check to make sure that the door, you could still get out or get back in. Like if you stepped outside, could you get back in?
Right.
So we did this. This is how fucking brilliant we are. Both of us go outside. So we tested it out where one of us is on the inside of the door, one's outside. And then the guy on the outside opens the door. The power's out, so the lock shouldn't work, right? Well, no, the keypad gets turned off, but the lock still works to keep the door shut.
Right.
And it was registering, there's a motion sensor down there that sensed the person on the inside, which is why the door unlocked. So when we both went outside, we got locked out in the middle of Hurricane Wilma.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and we're standing there and like, we're just like, oh shit, like what do we do? And at this point, the whole reason we went out there is because he wanted to move his truck. He wasn't feeling comfortable with where his truck was parked. Because I think it was during one of the earlier hurricanes, one of the guys drove like a Ford Explorer that had those windows that pop out. Like they don't roll out, but like they have a little clip on the back and it just kind of sits out like that.
Yeah.
Genius that this guy has left one open, and when the winds blew, it ripped it right off the car. Like just yanked it right off, like a Band-Aid. So Dave wanted to move his truck. So we're both outside, and then he gets in his truck, and we're locked outside at this point, so we're like, oh my God, we're hosed. Because Lord knows if anybody can hear us at this point, because we're down on the bottom floor. Everybody else is at least on the second floor, because there's nothing on the bottom floor except the lobby. That's it. Yeah. And then most of the parking lot is underneath the building, because it's those buildings that are built for floods.
Right.
Like everything important's up on the second floor. So Dave starts to take his truck out this way, and the wind is blowing in this direction. So as he takes the truck out, this just gigantic gust of wind blows through, and the whole truck goes like on two wheels.
Sweet.
And then and it comes right back down, and I'm like, my mind's blown. And so he immediately just whips around, pulls back into the parking lot. He's pale. He's like, oh my God, did you see that? And I'm like, yeah. The whole reason we were down there is because we thought the eye of the storm was hitting us at that point.
Oh, yeah.
The eye of the storm completely skipped us. I mean, we're watching this thing, because you know the eye of the storm, it's the calmest part of the storm.
Right.
So we're tracking it. It's going this way. It's going this way. It's going this way. We're right here is where we're at with the eye of the storm. And all of a sudden, when we watch the radar afterwards, like when they show like the path of the storm, it's like do-do-do-do-do-do. I mean, it truly, like you watch it disappear, and then it just reappears past us. So we never got the eye of the storm. We never got that eerie calm during Hurricane Wilma.
That is a cool moment, though.
And so ultimately, one of the engineers happened to be walking around the building, noticed there was nobody in our studio, and came downstairs as we're banging on the door after David parked his truck. So he lets us back into the building. And then for most of the beginning of the storm, we're running music, but we're giving updates. And then once the storm gets really heavy, that's when we would start broadcasting, simulcasting a news station. And so they're giving the constant updates and everything else. And there was one point where Dave just starts laughing at what's on TV, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? He goes, apparently whoever, and I'm not going to name the station, but he goes, apparently whoever on the station didn't do their research or they don't know what they're airing, but the guy that's on right now, this is like a 3-year-old clip, and that dude's in jail for being a pedo.
Whoa!
So yeah, and I think
and
then I think it may have been 5 minutes later they cut that feed and they went to something completely different because they picked up on the fact of what they were doing. Kind of a big deal going on there.
Yeah, kind of an issue.
And so then, for the most part, you're just there making sure that you're on the air, making sure that nothing major's going on at the station, and you're broadcasting. And as we're in the studio, the winds start to pick up. I think Wilma was a 3 when it hit us. Might have been a high 2. But we're in the studio, and out of nowhere, we just hear this earth-shattering crash, and the building shakes. It's a 4-story building. It's thick. So all of a sudden, we're a little bit freaked out. So we run out, and the way that it's set up is there was a studio in this corner of the building, studio in this corner of the building. That's the second floor. And then the same thing on the third floor where the studios are right on top of each other. Right. And then you got the 4th floor. Well, as we go outside, all of a sudden the engineers are scrambling around. We're trying to figure out what the hell happened. Like what blew up?
Yeah. And
we're checking the generator. We still have power, everything else. And then they made their way to the 4th floor. There was a Holiday Inn that's right down the street. The whole sign blew off and crashed into the side of the building, blew all of the windows out of our controller's office up on the 4th floor.
I've seen that happen.
Coincidentally enough, none of his papers got fucked up.
Really?
He had all this stuff out on his desk, and he came in like the next morning after the storm was gone.
Everything's just
and he's like, yeah. He goes, the window's completely shattered out, but everything is still exactly where it was on my desk. It makes zero sense how the hell that happened.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, that was probably the biggest thing that we saw, at least live for us. I mean, there was a lot of just really bad stuff, obviously, that happened with that. But that was probably the most major thing that we saw or witnessed with our own ears and eyes, was that Holiday Inn sign just blowing into the side of our building and annihilating that 4th floor out of there. But other than that, after Wilma, see, Katrina and Rita, some people lost power. I lost power for a little bit. I was without power at my place for 3 days after Wilma. And I was on the same grid as a hospital. That's one of the major things to look for.
Yeah.
If you're getting an apartment or if you're getting a house and you're in any kind of area that can get a hurricane, be on that grid as a hospital, because those are the first ones that they're going to get back up.
Absolutely.
So I was without power for about 3 days. So basically you're taking cold showers, which ain't so bad. Although I think it was after Wilma, it really wasn't that bad, because that had taken the temperature, and it's humid as hell in Florida. It's like 90-something degrees, especially this time of year. It actually plummeted to like the upper 70s and lowered the humidity, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's not usually right after the storm. It's really not that bad. It's like the couple of days after, when you're still without power, and all of that water that it's dumped is just sitting there, and then the sun comes back out.
It gets stagnant.
And then it just, it's so horrible.
But for some reason, I think Wilma was even longer. There was like a good 3 to 4 days there. It was some of the best weather we had.
Oh, yeah.
So I was without power for about 3 days. At the station, we were without power for about 3 to 4 days. But I don't think I ate as good as I did. Because what our bosses would do, we had one boss who lived out in this one community where they had power they were without power for maybe 12 hours. Everything was underground.
Yeah.
They're good to go. So he would swing into their local grocery store and just get piles and piles of food. I'm talking, he would pick up steaks, sausages, hamburgers, you name it. We were barbecuing.
Yeah.
So then down in the parking lot, there was a guy that worked for one of the other stations. His name was Maestro. This dude was awesome. And he was down there working 3 grills. Just, what do you want? You want a hamburger? Boom, here you go, hamburger. You want some steak? Here you go. And that dude knew how to grill. It was so fucking good.
That's the silver lining when these things happen. Hurricane parties.
Yes.
Everybody's grilling. The stores are sold out of booze. And you get messed up and fed.
Yeah, and because at that point there's not a whole lot you can do. So you just kind of ride it out. And then what a lot of people would do is they would ship up to Orlando to go hang out at Disney World, Universal Studios.
Yeah.
But there were those of us that needed to stay at the station to make sure that we're on the air. There was even a sales guy that we worked with who, I want to say it was right after the storm or even during the storm, he was on the phone selling insurance companies on ad time.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Look, radio makes serious bucks during hurricanes because everybody wants to advertise when they're back on. Everybody wants to advertise, insurance stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so airtime fills up, and then people are like, "Well, I'll pay more," and so the price keeps going up, and people are getting bumped and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's messed up, but we do pretty well.
It's a business. It is a business, and so there were those of us that still had to be there. I was the production director, so I had to make sure all the commercials were done, to make sure they were on the air, make sure we were always on the air. A lot of people, which you're not going to blame them if there's nothing to do. Hell, take the vacation, go on up there. Especially considering we usually had free tickets laying around for Disney World and Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Go on up there. This is where it gets a little bit wonky. Is after about a week or so, we're eating good because Maestro's hooking us up on the grills, and then one of our GMs ordered us a gas truck. I mentioned this story in the meeting, and Buzz goes, "What's a gas truck?" It's the truck that hauls the fucking gas, man.
Like
It's not rocket science. It's literally the truck with the gas. So he got it for us, and I want to say the National Guard or the Army tried to steal it from us.
No
He
shit.
bought this thing. He had it shipped in, and they tried to stop it, pull it over, and confiscate it because they said they wanted it. When he's like, no, I bought this for my employees who need to get to and from work. So this was right about the same time. A lot of the people who made their way up to Orlando are coming back.
Right.
So I'm in my office. All of a sudden, Dave walks in, and I don't know why he kept his voice down. It was a soundproof studio. But he goes, hey, so Mike Disney ordered a truck, a gas truck for us. So get your car and get out there really quick because a lot of the people who are coming back, they're here now in the building, and they're trying to get in line. And what had happened was the gas truck came into the parking lot, and all these people who spent their gas to get up to Orlando and came back and had not been at work at all decided, oh, gas truck.
Yeah.
I'm going to fill up. And the GM was out in the parking lot. You, out of the line, you, out of the line, you, and just booting people out. And then he's letting everybody else in, who, like myself and Dave, who spent the time there. So we pulled in, got to fill up. And here's the thing. I even made sure I always had a full tank of gas right before the storm hit. Even if I had a quarter of a tank gone, I'm filling that thing all the way up. Much as I can.
I've waited in line 2 to 3 hours to make sure that I could top off before the storm hits.
And the thing that you need that for especially is where I lived at when these storms hit. It was maybe a 30-minute drive. The thing that sucked is there was no major freeway. I mean, I could take the freeway, but you're like going way around to get to the station. So to get there, you're really just kind of going through these random roads. And it would take me about a half hour, normal day, in rush hour, to and from work.
Right.
Bump that to about 2.5 to get to and from work. Because all the lights are flashing red.
Right. So
and clearly nobody that I've ever run into knows that when you run into a flashing red, you treat it like
a four-way stop.
Exactly. See, at least Scott knows what's up. And you would see the person, like you could always tell the person who's like second or third in line when they get up to like the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And they get up there, and in their brain they're like, well, maybe if I stay close enough to the car in front of me, nobody will notice. And so you get the one car that goes, and then there's like 3 or 4 cars trailing right behind them because clearly whatever they're doing is more important than what you're doing. And it just it slowed everything down, and you were looking at like a 2.5 hour drive, and that's what wasted all my gas. I mean, I had a Honda Civic, for crying out loud, and it took me less than a week to go through that tank of gas because I spent so much time just kind of sitting and waiting down there. So anyway, those are pretty much my hurricane stories. I don't think I really have any more.
I've got plenty. You want to hear some of mine?
Absolutely. If anybody has anything, or if they have any questions here in the on the Facebook chat, then by all means. But you know, Scott here, it's a backwards cap, but he's rocking a New Orleans Saints hat, so he knows what's up when it comes to hurricanes.
I know.
Especially the drinky.
You're right about that. So my storm was Hurricane Lily, 2004. I was working in a town called Crowley, Louisiana, a really small town in South Louisiana.
Crowley.
And I was probably about 23, 24. And we're there all night. We're hunkering down. We're on air. We're giving all the advice we can. And then the operations manager comes in and he sends me to a hotel. He says, "I want you to go." And I was like, "Oh, but I want to be on the air, man. This is where all the action's happening." He's like, "Look, we're going to be up all night. We're going to need somebody fresh in the morning. You go get some sleep. We'll call you in the morning and you come in." So of course I go, and I don't sleep very well because I'm all jazzed up, but I try to get some sleep. And when I wake up the next morning, the storm is rolling in, and I've gotten no phone calls. Now I'm getting pissed off because now I'm getting left out of all the fun,
all the action.
So I get up and I realize, well, it's too late now. So the storm has started to roll in. So I'm watching. I'm standing on the balcony of the hotel while the storm is happening, right? So the rain is hitting you, and it kind of hurts a little bit because the rain is just being thrown so hard. I'm on the interstate, so I'm watching 18-wheelers go by on the interstate, wobbling as they go because these dumbasses don't stop. Just like you said, the Holiday Inn sign comes crashing down.
Yep.
Our hotel sign just comes crashing down into the parking lot. Boom! And I hear windows blow out on some of the vehicles, not mine, luckily. But then the eye passes over us, And I'm like, all right, I'm gone. So I jump in my car, and I start making my way downtown, and there's trees and power lines, and stuff's just down everywhere. So for me to get to the hotel, back to the radio station, the streets are just a grid, right? But it's like a maze, because you go down this street, tree blocked. All right, back up, turn around. That one's flooded. Can't get that way. So like, I'm trying to find like the one path I can take to get back to the radio station. It takes me about 20 minutes, and I get there, and it's so the eye of the storm. So everybody's standing outside. But when I get back, the radio station has flooded. There's water all throughout the floor, which luckily the power's out.
How
it's probably
2, 3, 4 feet?
No, it's not that bad. But it's a couple of inches, which in a radio station full of electricity, not the best thing.
Yeah, you don't want to go playing.
Not really what you really want to deal with. But they turned the generators off and everything, and so we're sitting there, and there's really nothing we can do because we're off the air, but we're not really sure why we're off the air. We don't know if the tower has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
So something you may not know if you've never worked in radio before, the radio tower for the radio station isn't at the radio station. No. We have a small tower that beams the signal to where the radio station's tower actually is, and then it broadcasts from there. And that's called the STL.
Like ours is up on the Franklin Mountains.
Right, yes, exactly. So, but we called some people who were around the tower, and they're like, the tower looks like it's okay. It hasn't fallen over or anything like that. So the storm comes in again, and we're standing out because we've got like covered walkways on the sidewalks, and we're like walking against the wind and shit like that. And it's fun, and it's fun, of course, until somebody busts their ass. And then you go sliding. So anyway, so the storm finally passes, and we're done. It's like, all right, let's go see what happens. So we go outside, and we see the STL, which is in itself a steel tower, has been twisted like a pretzel, like a tornado.
Like Superman just came up and just kind of crumpled it into a ball.
Crumpled it up into like this twisted ball. It's hanging out. The only reason we found out that's what it was is because it had fallen off the back of the building and started banging against the building.
Oh my God.
So our operations manager, what a dumbass, he gets up, he's like, I'm going to go save the day. Like, he gets a portable
Let me go pick it up.
He gets a portable CD player and a microphone, drives out to the transmitter site where the tower actually is. He's like, I'm going to broadcast live from the tower. He plugs his CD player in at his microphone.
What's a CD player for? Music bed?
I guess so. When he gets tired of talking, he has something to go to.
All ABBA, all the time.
It was like whatever CD he had in his truck or something like that. But he goes out there. He's got no information. And it's 2000.
Yeah, what is he going to broadcast?
It's 2004. Cell phones aren't like they are now, right?
This was pre-iPhone.
This is pre-iPhone. This is flip phones. This is not even really Nokia Razors yet, right? So he's got no information. And he's just sitting out there playing music and talking, and the rest of us are sitting back at the station just like, well, this is hilarious. So
it's windy.
Yeah. I'm out here at the tower if anybody wants to come tell me how their day's going.
Yeah.
So, of course, like I said, the building is flooded, right? It's all carpeting. So the waters recede, the building kind of empties out, but now it's just wet carpet. And we've still got to work in there.
Kind of like the way it was this morning. It's the carpet cleaners. Yeah. Where I almost busted my ass.
They turned the power back on. Now it's August. It's 90+ degrees. Mm-hmm. The carpets are now starting to mildew.
Oh.
And the building just smells horrible.
I was going to say, I bet that smelled just delightful.
Because this building is ancient. This building's already like 80 years old to begin with, and it's just this old rickety piece of shit. So the operations manager just goes out and he buys a bunch of cat litter, and he just spreads it all over the floors. He's like, but they never, like literally, I've been back to that station since I quit working there.
Still funky.
It's the same carpet. They didn't replace the carpets. They didn't change the carpets out. It's the same nasty carpet that was still in there in Hurricane Lily in 2004.
What the hell?
And the place just smells like ass constantly.
Yeah, Lily, L-I-L-I.
L-I, that's right, L-I-L-I. But
it did get up to, that thing got up to category 4.
It was a 4 before it hit. And the eye passed right over us, and it was eerie, right? Because there's no power. So all the sounds that you normally hear, there's like the buzzing of electricity lines, cars passing, nothing. At night, no street lights, nothing. It's just dead black, like I guess.
That's why they put in those curfews and stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's, you don't know what's going on.
It's creepy, because most people have evacuated, right? So downtown is empty. There's no businesses going on. You can just walk around town. You can pee in the streets. No one cares. Like, we
We did that because
Let's be honest, people were doing that anyway.
They were doing that anyway. But we were doing that because our toilets kept backing up every time we flushed, so we'd go pee in the streets and stuff like that. But it's a tough life.
Well, yeah, so there's our hurricane stories.
That's it.
On that note, we'll begin to wrap up this AfterBuzz. We did get a question here in the YouTube or in the Facebook chat about Buzz and when he's coming back. We do have a brief update on that. He did have a root canal done this morning. He came into the show. He's asking, bits and stuff we want to do, and I'm like, man, you can't even talk yet, like, because it was all right here, numb, because he had the root canal done. So I think right now, he had the root canal today. I think he's got a wire that's kind of connecting all of his teeth and keeping him from falling out. I think he gets that out next Tuesday, and then at that point he needs to get some temporary teeth put in. But he said before he can get the permanent stuff in, might be a year.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's going to live with a bridge?
Have a bridge or something going on. But at least at that point, he'll be able to be on the air. The reason he's not on the air now, he can't talk for extended periods of time because he's got one tooth there, and when he speaks and he tries to go like with a TH sound, it's cutting his tongue because it's just like a sharp edge on that tooth. And then there's a fucking wire right there. Oh, and he does that every 2 minutes. You'll be sitting there, and we'll be in commercials, and everything's all nice and quiet and cool, and you just hear, it's fucking gross.
Which seems like it has to hurt too. There's got to be a significant amount of pain involved in that.
But anyway, that's how we'll wrap up this week's AfterBuzz. Tomorrow we'll be back on the air with some best of stuff and qualifying more people for the hot tub. Scott, you got anything?
Don't forget. Text Harvey to 90999 to donate $10 to the American Red Cross.
Wait, hold on.
Close enough.
Right here. Harvey to 90999. Oh, look at that. Perfect.
That was pretty good.
Yeah?
That was pretty good.
Yeah? There you go. Do it. And we'll see you next week.